Hey guys, Youngblood back with you for another episode of Captain's Log, doing our second episode of Air to Air. Before we get into it, I really wanted to start out talking about some of the changes they made in the most recent patch that impact flying. The first of which is your composite armor, the flak armor that you've got on your vehicle, was reduced by about 5%. So instead of 15%, you're going to have 10% on the first tier. Instead of 20, you're going to be at 15. It's still a nice benefit to have, but it's nowhere near as strong as it used to be. The second one is really with the Flack Weapons. Think about the Skyguard, the Burster, and the turrets. The real physical change is that there's not going to be a direct hit bonus anymore. For AA people that were doing a really good job of actually leading their targets and getting direct hits, they were getting a bonus of the direct hit as well as the explosion and the splash damage, so they were doing double damage. Now it's just going to be an increased splash radius and no more direct hit bonus. Along with that, the Skyguard is actually getting a 20% increase in its damage. The turrets, the Phalanx turrets, are getting a 14% increase, and the Burster Max is getting a 6% increase. All in all, that's bad news for pilots. It's probably the right thing to balance things out, but if you get a bunch of Bursters or now Skyguards, it's going to be tough to fly. In addition, there's changes to the Afterburner. All three of the fighters now have reduced deceleration after you run out of juice or just stop using it. So you're going to be able to kind of cruise a little bit. That speed's not going to drop off as fast. The Reaver specifically is now getting a boost, so it's quicker to full speed on the accelerator when you're using Afterburner. The last little tweak that impacts flying is the Heavy Assault's lock-on launcher is actually now more reliable. Sometimes the weapon wouldn't explode, sometimes it would lose tracking abilities. It was really buggy, but basically they fixed that, so now it's going to be a more reliable weapon, which means for the pilots out there, when you consider the flak armor reduction, the flak damage increase, and the heavy assault change, it's going to be a lot harder to get your flying in, and that survivability definitely dropped. So keep that in mind, and let's go ahead and jump into some other stuff. Someone asked me in one of the last videos, what's the best way to take out a Galaxy solo? Now, you can actually do it, but man, it is hard, so it's best to really pair up with others. That being said, you want to avoid the areas where guns are actually at, and then you want to really just alternate between your primary and secondary as quickly as possible to get as much damage on it as you can, because it is a Goliath. Speaking of the primary, I generally recommend that you're using the rotary up front. Using the rotary, it's got an extremely fast time to kill. I mean, it just shoots a lot of lead down range. But you need to make sure that you're aware of, one, it seems to shoot below the crosshairs, at least specifically on the Reaver it does. And then two, if you're further away from a target, you need to make sure that you're leading it. That means that you're anticipating the direction and the movement of your target, and that's one of the most important things when you're dogfighting. When you're actually engaging a target in a dogfight, you want to make sure that you're staying as close to him as possible, because that's going to allow you to make sure that you're not getting turned and locked on. One of the problems with that, though, is if you're killing your momentum, it's giving an opportunity for an enemy to turn around, and if you're putting a hurting on them, they can really come back and crash into you, turning themselves into a torpedo. Speaking of survivability, a lot of times it's good to know when it's the appropriate time to turn around. There you saw about, 15 ships or something like that, and I said, I am not sticking around here. Yes, I'm a pretty good pilot, but am I good enough to take out that sort of army? Nope, not even close. So I am getting the hell out of there, and nobody ended up following me, which is great, but you need to know when you need to get out of there. It's best to go ahead and come to the realization now that there's going to be pilots out there that are better than you that you can't shake. There's also going to be situations where there are multiple fighters and it's just too much to handle. Sometimes you just need to know how to get out of there. What I'm doing in this video is I'm trying to get away from one side that's on my tail, another one that keeps flying by just strafing me, and one's using lock-on rockets. I'm trying to break the lock, I'm trying to survive, and I'm trying to find a path to get out of there so one, I can go and repair, and two, come back from a more favorable attack angle. It's really best to be unpredictable. You've all seen the pilots that just hit the afterburner and fly straight, and I need to tell you that doesn't work. Endar's a great place for this because you've got the canyons you can use, but it can be done anywhere. You want to just try and take maneuvers that you can use that the enemy's not going to be able to match, and try and break the line of sight so you can do something unpredictable and get out of there. Try to remember the maneuvers that we talked about for engaging targets, because those are really useful for when you're trying to get away from them as well. Sometimes you just want to afterburn and get out of there. Other times you want to use a reverse turn. Sometimes an Immelman works in your favor. Like I said, be unpredictable, but know which of these maneuvers works best in what situation. If you've done one, try a different one. If you've done that, go back to another one or repeat yourself. But bottom line, you don't want to continue to just circling in the same direction because that's going to get you killed. One thing that's really easy to do when you're in these dogfights is to get worked up a little bit. Some people hold their breath, some people get tense, other people just lose their cool a little bit. And ultimately what you want to do is you want to just relax and stay calm. I know it sounds silly because it's a video game, but people really do get engaged in these. So just know that you need to keep your wits about you. Here, I just got rammed by a Mozzie that I was dogfighting with. It would have been very easy for me to just try and fly after him and go for the kill, maybe just run for home. But ultimately, I knew I wasn't going to make it. So the best situation here for me was just to land calmly, because you're going to explode if you go down too hard, and to repair. This kept me alive to keep hunting. Now, when you're spinning around and engaging an enemy in a dogfight, it can be really easy to lose track of them. So there's really 3 different things that I like to use to help me out. One is really just using the contrails. It's a really accurate way of finding out exactly what direction they went because the contrails follow them and you can kind of learn to read their patterns. Another one is really with sound. If you've got a decent 5.1 sound or surround sound or even just a decent headset, you're going to be able to tell where that enemy's actually gone. The third is really going to be switching over to third person, hitting T and going into the external view because it's going to open up your field of view and it's going to allow you to follow your enemy a little bit better. Now, the tricky piece with that is actually alternating back and forth. You already got your hands on W, A, S, and D, and you've got your mouse over there. So it takes a little bit of finger yoga to get comfortable with, but it's something that's important to get familiar with because it's so beneficial in these situations. Now, when you've got an enemy on your tail, we talked about, basically how to get out of there using maneuvers. But it's also beneficial to know that you can use the same maneuvers to put you in position to do some attacking. I used an Immelman there. I knew the enemy was behind me. I pulled it off, and then I was on the offensive. Outside of how do you avoid an air-to-air missile lock and avoid the missile, the most requested thing that I've actually gotten so far is how do you engage multiple enemy targets? When you've got 2 newer pilots on you or people that just aren't very good, it's really not a big deal because you can put yourself in a position where you can take out one and then take out the other because they're probably just trying to follow you in straight lines and aren't going to be able to pull off the advanced maneuvers you can after learning some of the stuff we've talked about. Now, when you're head-to-head with 2 decent to good pilots, this becomes a real chore, and I think it's just good to resign the fact that you're going to die a lot in these situations, but it doesn't always have to be that way. Again, you want to make sure that you're attacking an enemy, putting damage into one, peeling off in an unpredictable motion, giving you an opportunity to attack the other. Now, keep in mind, if you're following an enemy like you would in a normal one-on-one dogfight, it's going to be really tough because you're giving that other fighter the opportunity to break off and pick their attack angle. You want to make sure that they're both feeling the pressure from you to make sure that they can't come in for an easy kill because they're preoccupied with you at the same time. The example on the screen right now is a pretty good example from a battle we were having with the VS. There was about 4 Reavers and about 4 Sais. The Sais started getting killed off, and there was this one left. Now, this guy's actually attacking one of our fellow Reavers, and he's flying fairly regularly until he actually kills off his target, which is great. That being said, he stayed on his target for so long that we were able to put enough damage into him to bring him down very quickly. Granted, that guy was using an air-to-air rocket, but you get the point. The last piece that I really wanted to talk about today involves choosing the right attack angles. There's really 2 different ways that you can attack targets. Well, there's 3. There's 2 right ways and a wrong way. Generally, the wrong way is flying at a medium altitude. That's where all the fighters typically fly. They want to be able to see the ground, but that really means that you're going to come head-to-head with a lot of different enemies. You want to try and either decide to fly high, where you can kind of swoop down like a hawk, or you want to fly low enough where you can kind of use some cover and you don't stand out as much. The obvious danger about flying low is then you're in the tank's line of sight, and liberators and stuff that are flying higher are going to have an easier chance to actually spot you. But Both of those are going to give you the opportunity to sneak up on your target. The real key to winning an air-to-air battle is getting damage first. And especially with a weapon like a rotary or a lock-on missile, you can do a lot of damage if they don't know you're there. Lock-on missiles work better when you're close. Rotary works well when you land all your shots. You want to choose the type of engagement that you want. You want to control it, and that has to do with how you start. High or low. Try to avoid the middle. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap up this air-to-air episode of Captain's Log. The next episode is going to be the one that everybody's been asking and waiting for, the air-to-air missile special, where we're going to talk about avoiding the missile once it's actually on your tail, breaking locks, etc. So stay tuned for that. That being said, I am going to be away for a little over a week, so you're not going to see much activity from me for a little bit. That being said, stay subscribed, and you'll make sure you get a notification when that all-important episode comes out. If you're not subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that button if you liked what I've done. I'm going to go ahead and pop up an annotation right about now with a link to the Captain's Log series. So if you're a new subscriber or just want to brush up on some older stuff, feel free to watch through some of those older videos over the next week or so just to get your fix from Captain's Log. I'll also give you guys an update on the partnership stuff when I get back. So, as always, I really appreciate everything you guys do. Hopefully you guys are learning stuff from this series, and I will talk to you later. Take care.